All right. Okay, well, I think we'll get going here. Thank you again for joining us this morning. We're going to be walking through the final interim reporting and a little bit of things that are unique about this reporting uh, time. And we'll definitely have some time for Q&A. So this time we're going to hold questions and answers till the end of the presentation, but please feel free to enter any questions you have into the Q&A function, and we'll make sure to address your questions. In the background with me, and also right here, are my wonderful colleagues, Leslie Gonzalez and Gabrielle Matul-Wurst, and they just say hi real quick, and a big, huge thank you to them for helping us with the Q&A and helping address questions in the background. Thanks, you all. Appreciate you. So if you haven't met me yet, my name's Carly Curley. I use pronouns she, her. I'm the Assistant Director for Need-Based Programs and primarily responsible, although my fabulous team members that you just met are super helpful as well with the interim reporting. So usually if you're hearing from someone, it's usually from one of us on the WCG team in regards to interim reporting. So I have greenish yellow hair. I have a green background for a visual description, checkered top, pink lips, fair skin, and that's what I'm looking like today. So again, welcome, and we're glad you're here. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to give you some updates in terms of Seesaw updates that we haven't even had a chance to send out to the community yet. Different reminders as it pertains to the final interim reporting period. Final interim specific information, speaking of that. We'll walk you through the interim process, and then of course we'll allow some time for Q&A. So please don't be shy. We love your questions. We want to hear from you. And if anything's burning and you're thinking about that question, please let us know. We are happy to help. First, I just want to give a huge amount of gratitude to you all for all the work you've done this year. As you know, we have 4 interim reporting periods. They're crucial for us getting information to legislators, our forecast councils, so that we can accurately get the funds available to our students. And so we know this is such a hard work, and amongst the interim, we know all the hard work that goes into serving students. And so I just want to give a huge thank you to you all. So before we get started, I like to ask, what would you like to learn today? So if you have a phone handy or something, you can scan a QR code. If you just let us know kind of what you're thinking about and what would you like to learn. And yeah, I'll just let those kind of roll in as people have a chance to join. Let us know if anything's not working too. I don't know. We'll give people a couple minutes. Okay. Yeah, that's an excellent thought. Yay! I see a new person. Hello, welcome. Yay. Yay, love to see our new people here. Great. Thank you all. Appreciate your feedback, and am excited to see what we could do to help with our new folks, and then also kind of talk through that new process. Just as a side note, there is some really good training, I think, on the SBCTC side when it comes to the incremental format, and happy to kind of direct you there if you reach out to us at WCG email, and I'll have that at the end here. But happy to do give you some additional information that might help with that. Okay, love to hear from you, so thank you so much. Okay, so one big news is that we have a new upload screen. So you may have heard that we're kind of working on Seesaw as a huge project. We're kind of updating and upgrading Seesaw. And so as we perform these updates, we are going to let the community know. And we have actually a tab in the FAA resources website that is specific to portal updates so that you can kind of see what's been done at any given time as a part of this project. But for now, this is the new news, is that it's going to look different when you go to upload your file. The big thing is, and as someone kind of mentioned, is that we are only going to do incremental file format only. So we've fully transitioned to incremental file. You can no longer upload a full file layout when it comes to the upload screen. So I know that we are all anticipating that, but just want to make sure you know and have a heads up about that. We'll walk through the new upload screen here in just a little bit, so you have a little bit more of an idea of what that process will look like for you. Just a reminder about training webinars, lots of opportunities to learn more in the next couple of weeks. If for some reason you did not receive the email with all of this information and registration links from us, just reach out to our WCG email and we can absolutely provide you that so you can register for any and all of the sessions you might be interested in. We are going to be, and I'll talk about this here in a moment, but we are going to have in improving your unit record experience. So we're going to tie the interim reporting to the URR and what's different, what's the same. So that might be a really good session for you if you are folks that kind of do the unit record report and are curious, like, how do I avoid some of these errors when I'm approaching the unit record reporting time? There's going to be a bunch of updates on June 16th in that session, anything new for 2025-26 legislative information. So if that kind of is something that's interesting to you, definitely sign up for that. Adult pathways, those are things like the teachers grants, Washington or WA grant for apprenticeship, state work study. So things like that, if you're interested in those programs, it's a great session for you. So lots of opportunities here, depending on what you want to know and learn. We hope that you can join us. We will be recording sessions, and so we will have these available on our website at a later time for you, just in case the time period does not work for you. So back to the incremental file upload. So this is just a reminder of what that file does. We said the new incremental file, it's actually probably not that new now, but new to only in the new incremental file. And so essentially what this file is we like to call it a change only file, but we get questions about how can I use this in the first start of a year. And so as we kind of transition to the 2025-26 year, I'm sure you might be curious about how that will work. And so what you want to do, you use a file just like you would the full file. You would just upload all of your students into Seesaw. And then hopefully the point from then on is just change only students. And so I know the CTCs have a certain process for this using our all awards report, which I'll talk about here in a moment. But a couple important things to note about using this file. So it will not delete your students if you omit them from the file. So that used to happen in the full file, where if you just omitted the student, it completely deleted their record. And the reason why is because the full file was a brand new start for each time you uploaded that file. With the incremental file, in order to delete a student's record, you have to put a Y in the is delete column. So that's just something that's really important to remember. Those are things that could come up during the unit record time where you're like, I thought that student was deleted, but now they're still here in Seesaw. So that's something really important to note. It's not going to affect any student awards for that matter that are not listed in the file. So for example, if you have students that you have to adjust their award in Seesaw to match your award in your system, it will only adjust the awards for those that are actually included in the file. So kind of similar process to the unit record report, but please let us know if you do continue to have questions about this. We certainly want to make sure that your data is correct in Seesaw, and we want to help you through that. Just a reminder here, $0 awards equal need met. So this can be a great tool for you if you want it to mean need met, because then you won't get an edit if you have a 0, but you should not use a 0 if the student hasn't been awarded. That should be blank. You should leave that blank in the file. So that's a lot of information on that slide. So let us know if you have continued questions. So this is the most important thing about the final interim period. Sometimes it seems like the unit record is the time to fully reconcile, but it actually isn't. The unit record is too late. So once you're moving on to the unit record, you are actually past the time where you can request funds, where you can make changes. Usually you're past your fiscal year at your college as well. So that is not the time where you want to final reconcile. This is the time you want to final reconcile with all of your systems. So that includes Seesaw, your system, your financial aid system, as well as your business and financial office records. So it's really, really important you use this as an opportunity to do so that you can have a great unit record report instead of having things where you're going to owe back money or lots of errors because things weren't caught during final interim. So some things that kind of differ between, and we'll talk about this in the URR session for just to get you all excited to sign up for that training, but some differences between the two reports. If you've done the URR, you probably know we don't ask for residency information on the interim reporting process. We also don't ask for cost of attendance and need. So we're really looking at, on the interim, we're really looking at what is the student's eligibility based off of their MFI, which is kind of determined by a transaction number that you put into Seesaw, different from the process of URR, which is going to look at extensive information. So if you haven't caught residency issues during the final interim reporting or need issues, that's going to be something that will show up in the URR. So that's why reconciling between all systems is going to be really, really important at this time. So speaking of that, a great tool for you to use is the All Student Awards Report. So this is located in Seesaw under the Seesaw menu, Reports. And this is an awesome tool for reconciliation because what this tool does is it provides a CSV of all your information in Seesaw. So you can use this report to kind of cross-check your systems, make sure that everything's kind of aligning and the same for you. There are two options when you log in or when you access this report. You'll see that there is an incremental file option that exactly matches what you upload into Seesaw. And then when you see legacy, that just means that it's in the full file format. So those are the two options available to you. Highly recommend you use this through your reconciliation process, and I think it will be helpful for you. So a note for our summer 2 schools, please have those reported in Seesaw as soon as possible. It really, really helps us with budget projections and funding projections to ensure that we have enough funding available, which, for an entitlement fund, don't worry about that. There will be enough funding, but it really, really helps us on the backside. So please have those into Seesaw ASAP if you have it. For our summer 2 schools, you are allowed to reopen your interim report after the due date, after you've submitted it, only for new summer 2 students. And the last day to do that with us is August 1st and request funds for those students. So something really important for our summer 2 schools to remember, August 1st is your deadline. And we just ask, if you are going to reopen your interim, please save a bunch of students. Don't do it on a daily basis and reopen. Please just email us once you have a handful of new students and we can go ahead and reopen it for you, and have no problem doing that. Just email us at WCG and we'll make sure to take care of that for you. So a reminder of what happens with the file information, since it did change this year. So the file is uploaded into Seesaw and it contains award amounts and the specific transaction number for a financial aid application that was used to award. So Seesaw matches that information provided through the file upload to the actual FAFSA or WASFA application number reported. And if the information doesn't match, there's an edit that you'll need to resolve. So I know you all probably have run into this throughout the year. There's usually a variety of different reasons why this is not working. Could be, a WASPA number reported, but it's an actual FAFSA that the student has. Could be an issue with an SSN or a different type of ID that's not matching. So feel free to reach out to us if you need some help troubleshooting that. And this is just a reminder of data hierarchy and how we come to the family income amount. So you can see the family income amount reported in Seesaw. And sometimes there's just questions of like, how did you all come up with that number? Or why is mine different? Why does it look different in my system? This information um, is available, but this is just a good reminder of how we've calculated that, what gets preference. Sometimes these questions come when there is manual income information reported, and a school wants to use the FTI information, but we can't do that through data hierarchy. The manual fields are being used. So that's a good example of when that happens. Or maybe there's like a professional judgment that has occurred. And so it's related to that. So yeah, again, reach out if you have any questions about why the family income's differing for you. We're happy to look into that for you. And this is just a reminder too, if you're going to use FTI information in email, make sure you send that to us through secure email through the portal. Okay, for the final interim, this particular edit actually has to be resolved. So it can't be a thing where you award CBS, but don't update the checker. So either way, the checker has to be updated. And this is the student is okay to award, not okay to pay, and hasn't been awarded CBS. So this edit appears when there's a verify in the high school grad year and or the high school 2.0 GPA. Information needs to be verified in the checker. So what you see here for this example student is you see it says no in the high school 2.0 GPA, but it says okay to award for 2-year transfer. And the reason for that, and we actually put a little bit more information in the manual for this for you for this next year. And the reason why is the 2.0 requirement is no longer there for any students that are at a 2-year school or an admit as a transfer to a 4-year school. So only direct admits to a 4-year college have the 2.0 GPA requirement. And that was something that was updated think the year prior. I'm trying to remember when that went into effect through legislation. So sometimes we get questions about that. That's a great example here of why you might see that. And then this edit does appear, like I said, when you see verify in the high school grad year. So because this has to be verified, or resolved for your report to be submitted. And this includes the CBS is not okay to pay edit as well. Both need to be resolved. This means that you need to do something in the checker to resolve it. So right now, if you have a high school transcript, you've received a high school transcript for the student, you just need to update the CBS eligibility checker by overriding to the high school grad year and GPA information. So here's an example of what those override screens look like. You will select academic year for the grad year, and you will put the GPA value for GPA. And the reason you should say, per high school transcript received by student or received on this date, just so others who see the override can know the documentation. If you have received either a GED certificate and the student's on a former foster youth, or they're, they're, I don't know, it's kind of difficult. It can be an it depends situation. But if you have received a GED, you can select the GED ineligible high school or not graduate. So what this will do is this actually makes the okay to pay, okay to award to no. And for this year would allow you to award bridge to the student, provided they meet all other requirements. So it's really important. And if you have a student that's kind of in a different issue, maybe there's some issue, it's not a GED, you weren't able to get, any type of documentation, the next option is transcript requested, not received. So after May 1st, this is an option in the checker to override. And you just want to note the ways that you contacted the student. So you can see here, requested transcript via email on this date, through phone conversation on this date, did not receive. This will also update okay to award and not okay to pay to no, and also allow for bridge awarding, provided all other requirements are met for bridge. So there's basically 3 options. You got a GED, you mark that. You got a high school transcript, you update the checker for that, or you requested the transcript throughout the year, didn't get it, and you would use this override. So all of those have to happen for final interim. If you didn't see our email, we are so excited. We have a workaround for WASFA corrections for this year. And I'm going to go through kind of quickly, but we have these steps in the email as far as what needs to happen. And so essentially what happened, if you're curious, is the correction file process between us and our application provider, it broke. We were not be able to connect with the information. This is causing problems with data exchange, and this has been something we've been trying to resolve for a long time. So we're very excited that we have a workaround solution. The email was sent out to all our distribution lists on the 11th from the WCG email. If for some reason you're not on a distribution list and you'd like to be added to this is where we send out all of our communication, updates, things like that. Please let us know right into this email and we can get you added. We'd love to hear from you if you aren't. Okay, so lots of steps, but this is going to work, and we're already moving on doing these different corrections for schools. So thank you to those, if you're here, that have already sent an affidavit response, which I'll go through here in the next couple slides, but we really appreciate you. And most of all, just thank you so much for your patience. I know this has been a long journey getting here, so we really appreciate you. So for income-based or general corrections, what you're going to want to do is go into the WASFA application. So the menu is just programs, WASFA. You're going to search for the filer for the 2024-25 year. Once the filer has been located, you're going to click on the latest transaction to access their application details. So the detail screen has all of the details of their WASFA app. There will be an edit button on the latest transaction where you can correct and make any changes. So you're going to want to make any changes after or make any changes that you want to make for the corrections, and then click on review and submit. The great thing is when you are making these corrections, you can kind of see it's kind of a little small, but it's this little screen of what the corrections look like. When you're ready to review and submit, it'll show you all the changes you've made. So that way you can kind of look and be like, yep, that's what I intended to do, and click submit corrections. So that's if you have income-based or general corrections to make. So maybe adding an SSN or something like that. So for dependency override-based corrections, you're going to want to do something just a little bit different. Really, this is unusual circumstances, not necessarily just dependency overrides. So these are kind of the students that have been sitting out there for a long time that has to do with, provisional independence is one that's been really popular this year that we haven't been able to work on. So same thing, you're going to find your filer, go to this, so again, that's going to be in WASAC portal, programs, and then WASFA. And then search for your filer. Once they've been located, click on the latest transaction. And you're going to scroll, for this one, you're actually going to scroll down instead of clicking edit. You're going to scroll down, and there's going to be this box here that says approve unusual circumstances. This actually allows the student to become independent. And this will allow us to get a pending correction as well for us to process. So those are kind of the two different steps when it comes to WASFA corrections and how you want to proceed with those. So from there, this is kind of a different process than what you were used to. And I just want to assure you all, we are working hard to have a different process for 25-26, but knowing that it was June and we needed to be able to find a way to process these, that's why we're doing the steps that we're doing right now. So I want to assure you that we're still working on a better solution for you, but for now, this is going to work, and we're going to get these processed and get the funds to you. So what happens is, we have a way to identify any new pending corrections. So once you've done that, we're going to actually start to make changes directly with our application provider, which is Regent. And once we've done that, we're going to send you a secure message from WCG to the person who made the correction on the WASFA application. So we have a way of identifying who made the correction. We're going to send it to that email. And you want to make sure to be looking out for that. And what we're going to attach is a PDF of the application with the changes I identified on or reflecting the changes, sorry. So we want you to, once you get that email from us, we want you to carefully review the PDF and make sure that all the corrections are correct. Let us know if there are any discrepancies, if we missed something. If it is all correct, just reply to the email with the following affidavit, which you have here. And once we get your affidavit, we'll just go ahead and process that directly through our provider system. And then that will come back through to the WASAC portal within 2 business days or so. So it's a little bit of a time thing. So right here, this is just my encouragement. If you do have pending corrections and you're kind of curious, like, don't wait till the day that interim is due to start working on these students. It's going to take a little bit of time and process to make sure these are processed, reflected in the portal, reflected in Seesaw, so that there's a matching transaction so you can submit your report. So I'd recommend working on these this week, next week. Make sure that we can help get those processed for you, and so everything can be correct within the portal. All right, so moving on, we are going to talk about correcting multiple IDs. This is also a time where I'm sure schools are finding, like, these IDs are not matching. The student added an SSN to their application. There's always changing landscape when it comes to different accounts. Typically, this happens a lot with our WASFA applications. So you may have a student that, has been awarded under their WASFA ID for years, but then all of a sudden they've added an ITIN or an SSN to their application. And you're kind of curious, like, what do I do to resolve this? I'm not sure what to do. So we're going to talk through the steps about how to correct that. So big thing to know, this is the hierarchy of awarding. So if a student has an SSN listed on their application, that's what needs to be awarded on in Seesaw. Likewise, it goes to ITIN after that, and then to the WASFA ID. So that's kind of how our system's going to treat it, and it won't recognize the application. If there is, say, an SSN on application, it won't recognize the application or transaction number if they're awarded on a WASFA ID. So that's something important to note. So if a student has multiple SSN or ITIN numbers, you need to confirm which one's correct from the student. So if they had like one SSN listed last year and another SSN listed this year, then you definitely want to check with the student and kind of confirm which one's correct. You don't need to do that if they simply added an ITIN to their application. You can use that number and go off their application. It's just in conflicting information certain situations, you really need to talk with the student and confirm which one is correct from them. So if they have an SSN, they should be awarded on that number. If they don't, and they have an ITIN, they should be awarded on that number. And then if they have neither, the WASFA ID. Once you know what the correct ID is, you've determined that, you've looked at the application, you resolved any conflicting information with IDs, you can send us an information through the secure feature on in our portal to let us know, hey, the student should be awarded based off of this ID. What you will need to do on your side, though, is make sure that they're awarded in Seesaw on the correct ID. So this might mean correcting the ID, deleting awards off of their old ID, and that's kind of the process for making sure that we're ready to go if we do have to merge records. So yeah, that's the first steps to kind of take. That's all I have, I think, on that. Okay, so we're going to transition here. When it comes to interim reporting, we're going to kind of walk through what this is going to look like for you. And this will be just a quick little walkthrough, but certainly let us know if you have more questions, and we'll go from there. So there's kind of like a 5-step process when it comes to the interim reporting. You're going to upload your file, resolve the edits, request the funds, review your report, and then submit your report. So like I promised earlier, we are going to talk through what the new upload your file option is. So it's going to kind of look like this when you go into Seesaw. It's going to look a little different. You're not going to see the tabs. You're not going to, like I traditionally have trained you, you're not going to walk through the tabs. It's a little bit different once you go to this process. So when you go here, you're going to see academic year pull down or menu. So you can go ahead and see, okay, I want this specific academic year. And so you want to make sure that you do pay attention to what academic year you're uploading, since we'll have crossover years in the same for some schools, and you don't want to upload a 25-26 file. You want to upload a 24-25 file. Okay, once you've selected your file, That's your next step. It's going to, of course, be the CSV. There's a template there for the incremental file. You're going to select it and you're going to click continue to move forward. If there are any errors, it'll list on this third step for you, and it will tell you kind of what you need to correct. When that is the case, you'll just want to correct the errors on your actual CSV and click the start over button, which will take you back to the select a school and start the process over for you. Once everything's good to go, your file has no more errors, they reviewed everything, you're going to move straight to the review file contents. And so we always recommend, this is a very important part of the process, because you want to make sure, like, do these amounts make sense? Is this what I'm expecting to see right here? We want you to make sure you're reviewing it and it's looking like exactly like what you think you anticipate through your file. It's a good quick check to make sure, okay, I grabbed the right file. This is what I wanted. This is what I anticipate. And just doing that kind of eyeball real quick before you confirm. Once you are like, yes, this looks great, you can click on confirm to move the file into Seesaw. And lastly, you'll see as your file's getting uploaded, there's a status bar. It'll tell you what's happening. And it will eventually be like all records are saved, as you can see here. And you can click on review edits to access the edit tab. So that's kind of a little bit of a different process. You're kind of seeing the steps as you go. And yeah, and you'll walk through the upload process just a slightly different way. All right, so your next step is reviewing edits. And here, just a step also, you can click on the review edits button, but you can also access edits anytime through the Seesaw menu. Seesaw edits is how you do that. All right, so step 2, resolving edits. As we all know, and we're probably familiar with, this is the thing that's going to take you the most time. So it's going to take you some time to resolve the edits for these students and make sure that you're able to address everything, fix things within your system. And again, this is your time to final reconcile everything between your business office, your system, and Seesaw. So very, very important here. So when you are reviewing, and I suggest the reconciliation too after you're done reviewing the edits to make sure that everything aligns after. So you have a completed report, you're able to reconcile, make sure everything's ready to go before you submit that report. So that's kind of just my hot tip right there. So when you access the tab, all the edits are there. There are some that are listed as informational, and those do not need to be addressed in order to submit your report, but they're helpful to review. So click on an edit to access it and start working on the students. This is an example of what one of the edit screens looks like. So here's a bridge edit, for example. You'll see the students' names will populate. They're not in alphabetical order. So my other hot tip is to just sort them in alphabetical order. We like to do that. It just kind of makes it more organized because there's usually like multiple records for students depending on how many terms the edit applies to. So it can be really helpful for you. If you know the fix or the override, you already know what you need to do for the student, you can do it directly in this screen for overridable edits. But if you don't know exactly and you need to do some investigation, you need to look at the student detail, you can click on the student to do so. So this is what we call the student details screen. When you click on the student, you're going to be directed here to their specific detail about their awards, their family income size, all of the good information. Where you're going to find the edit also will be in that little triangle box. It's kind of small in here, but it's essentially a little box with a triangle that's going to have information about any edits that the student has on a given term or for their entire year. There'll be a box up top as well. So 2 different ways to view edits there. This is also where we're going to give information. If we've rejected an override, there will be information here. But you will notice when you're in the override screen, and I forgot to add this in here, that you will have the option of seeing why an override wasn't accepted when you go to make another override. So there's 2 different ways to see that now. All right. So the next step is if you need to resolve the edit by adjusting an award amount. So say the award amount is just not correct or was too much, too little. Usually it's too much. There's ways to correct that. You click on the edit box, which is the square with the pencil box. And then you're going to click and make any changes in that box that pops up. And once you have made all those changes, you're going to click on Update Student to kind of move forward. As you do that, and if you refresh the student detail page, you'll notice that the edits will go away that were associated with the incorrect awarding, if that's the case. All right, so a couple things to be aware of when you're doing your interim reporting. So one of them is the student does not have a FAFSA or WASFA on file. And this happens when it cannot match the application. So we kind of talked about that a little bit for, students that maybe have the wrong ID they're awarded under. This happens a lot with WASFA applications, or maybe there's just like a mistyping of the SSN. And so that's the reason why it's not matching. That could be the reason why you're getting this information. So here's a couple troubleshooting ways to deal with that. So we talked about ID doesn't match what is reported on their application. Sorry, little dog bark. So student hasn't listed your school on their financial aid application. So for some reason, they didn't list you on their FAFSA. So maybe that's just an indicator too. Maybe the wrong student IDs in there. Or the student's transaction number does not actually match a FAFSA or WASA transaction number that exists. Every once in a while this year, I think we've run into times where a new transaction has been received by the school, but maybe we haven't received it for another day. So that can happen if you made like a quick change and maybe we just haven't received it in our system yet. That can happen as well. So another one to be aware of that's interesting and different is the student has been awarded WCG and WGA, or WA grant for apprenticeship, in the same academic year. So this edit appears when the student has received WCG at your school, but has also received WA grant for apprenticeship. And so we have to go through a process of kind of identifying what the student's eligible for. So one thing to know is it's the same rules with WA grant for apprenticeship as it would be for two institutions awarding in a year. It would be just like concurrent awarding. So if you're looking for it in the manual, it's under concurrent awarding, and there's a process for that. So there's two override options. The main one is if you've already talked with us and you know that you've awarded based on adjusted cost of attendance, just use that override. If you haven't talked with us about the student yet, feel free to use the WASAC to verify option. And we may be reaching out to you just to let you know, hey, we have a question about this. Can you tell us some more information? So that is another one to be aware of. Next step is to request funds. And this is essential for the final interim period. So you must request all funds in order to submit your interim report in order to get it finalized. So you need to agree to request every single fund for the students. And in order to do so, you'll know you have to do all of your edits first to be able to do that. So that's why kind of this is step number 3. This includes any negative funds as well. So if you ended up with a total negative for the year, that's fine. You can request negative funds, and we'll be in contact with you to let you know, hey, this is what you owe, and we'll give you some information about how to do that. Okay, once you've requested those funds, you can click on I agree, request funds, and a confirmation of that email will be sent to you. There's many options throughout this process to download a list of the students you requested funds for. There's different CSV options. So just something to be aware of as you're going through this process. Step 4, you're going to review that report before you submit it. So we kind of highlight a couple menu items here. You see the submit menu, but there's also awards and payments that has a breakdown for you, total eligible students, any receivables. So these are really good options for you to kind of look at, review, make sure everything's looking correct. Again, a great time to review everything, great time to review between systems before you go ahead and submit that interim report. That button will not be available unless you have everything cleared and ready to go. So a lot of times people be like, oh, the button's grayed out, might have an edit that popped up. Sometimes it just happens as people are doing combined enrollment edits or things like that. So troubleshooting, if you don't see that interim report, submit interim report button, that could be why. But yeah, there might be some edits to resolve. Once you submit your report, we get an email, you get an email that lets us know that you have completed all of your report, we're going to review your overrides. A lot of times we're doing this throughout the process too. So you may have been working the report and been like, wait a second, I already reviewed this student. And if that's the case, that could just be because we're working on the overrides and maybe we didn't accept an override that you did. So just pay attention to the message that we send you and let you know. And if we have any questions, we usually put it in the override. If we reject an override, we let you know what the question is. So we'll let you know anything that needs to be done before we can finalize your report, and we'll be in contact with you. So interim reminders, like we've learned today, request all payments for all terms. So summer schools, request all payments that you can, especially summer 1, all payments must be requested. Summer 2, anybody that's reported should be requested for final interim. If there's an owing balance, you'll receive an email letting you know what is owed. And so, like I said, we'll give you additional information. You can always view the account information under the account status tab in Seesaw. Make sure you start early. I can't say that enough. Do not wait till the last week to start. This is a big one. You want to make sure that you have the time to correct whatever you need to correct. There's a lot more things that have to be done as a part of this final interim, and it's really essential that you start early. And then ask questions. We're here for you. We're here to answer your questions. If something doesn't make sense, something is looking odd and you're just not sure, let us know. We're here. Email us. We're happy to help. We're also happy to help, schedule a call if you or a meeting together. If you need to just walk through something visually with us, you can just let us know. We're happy to do so. All right, you all, we did that journey together. That was a lot of information. I'm going to ask Gabi to let me know what kind of questions we have out here for us.
Okay, the first one is, has the handbook been published yet? So we can verify that our policies are in compliance before we submit the PPA.
Thanks, Gabi. Yeah, no, it's not. We are working on the final stages of getting that published. And as soon as we do, we are going to send that out to schools. I know there was a due date of June 15th, so we are aware of that. And we're also making sure to update Marla with any information if it ends up needing to get extended. So we're just getting that all collated and hopefully have that up here for you as soon as possible.
Okay, and then asking if we can provide the link for the application corrections.
So I think there probably is a link, but it's basically a menu in Seesaw. So where you go is you're going to go to Seesaw, or sorry, not Seesaw, Programs, WASFA. And then as you click on the student's application, so you search for a student, you are selecting their application. That's where you make the corrections. There's an edit button when you look at their application. So it's not necessarily a link, it's within the portal menu.
Okay, thank you for that one.
Awesome.
How to resolve the students that receive multiple schools Washington College grant at the same quarter or the same academic school year? Which school will be responsible for the over award?
Great question. Yeah, for this one, and we put a little bit more info about this because we do get this question. How we handle concurrent awarding or combined enrollment is whoever has awarded and requested funds for that student gets to keep the funds first. So for example, if you have a student at college A and they've awarded funds for summer and fall, they've already been paid those funds, but you've awarded them in winter and spring, the school that's received funds paid to them already gets preference for who gets to keep them. So that's kind of how we do it. It's whoever's been paid first. And then likewise, that's the same with the WA grant for apprenticeship. So we're also checking to see, was the apprentice paid? Did the school pay first? And so depending on the answer to that question, that's who gets to keep the funds. Oh, I don't think I can hear you, Gabi. I think you're muted if you are.
Sorry, thank you. Um, So we got that one. How can we know the student is eligible for Washington College Grant or Washington College Grant for apprenticeships?
Oh yeah. So WA Grant for apprenticeship is specific to particular apprenticeship opportunities. There is going to be a transition into moving into some CTCs as pilots for next year. And actually, this is where I'd encourage you to attend the WA Grant for apprenticeship session so that you can get some more information about how that will work. But in terms of this academic year, you would just know that they're in both programs depending on getting that edit. There's nothing that you would there's not like a tool necessarily in the portal for you to see if someone is also enrolled in WA Grant apprenticeship other than the edit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then we will go to our last one so far. So if anybody else has questions, please feel free to add them into the Q&A and we'll get to those. So right now, if I have students with a Y in the is delete column and I don't want them deleted, do I change the Y to N? And then the rest of it is many of these students on our file are students that were census or R2s, and it appears that the students' enrollment are canceled in WASAC, though funds were paid. Their enrollment should not be canceled.
Hmm. So yes, you do not want a Y in the is delete if you do not want their records deleted. So that's really important. You could just leave it blank if you don't want anything to change in terms of deletion. If you need to make a change to their awards, so I think a question is, I think you said R2s. I'm not as familiar with that language. But is it that they were initially reported under one enrollment and then prior to census they dropped, for example? If that's the case, your file should have the changed information in it. So, say a student was reported as 12 credits and they have a full-time award in Seesaw, but after census they dropped to 10 credits, then your file should have the 10 credits with the adjusted award amounts for the student, and and then that would get updated in Seesaw. But yeah, very important to not have a Y in the is delete column unless you want them to be deleted. So hopefully I got that for you.
Okay, we have
Mhm.
another one. Um, it would be great to check if a student has been awarded in another school. Now we can only see if a student has been awarded elsewhere after we have paid and uploaded a new file to WASAC.
Yeah, this one is tricky because this kind of comes into privacy issues. So if you don't have the student reported in Seesaw, that would mean granting access to any student that's been awarded at a school. So it would have to be more of like a generic solution that we don't have currently. So that is true. We don't have that currently. And it does require you to kind of have the student uploaded into Seesaw. One option you could do if you're kind of in between interim and you don't want to mess with with your Seesaw records in the regular portal, is to utilize the portal training function and just upload all student file into portal training, and then you could just look and see who has the combined enrollment edit. That's a possible solution, since we don't have necessarily a checker for students in this way. So that's an option.
The next question, it says NSLDS grants us access to all students. So why is there a holdup with Washington data?
That's a good question. I think it would depend on how we could display the data. I think if it was I NSLDS does not tell you. Does it tell you? Yeah, it actually does tell you where students attended, hasn't it? I know that that's been a problem for us in the past, and honestly, I'm not sure, but it sounds like what you're asking for is some sort of checker in terms of if a student's attending and what their awards are. And I think we have heard that before. I don't know, Gabi, do you have any other thoughts on that one too?
Um, Well, we cannot provide access to each person to be able to see students at every campus. Um,
Hmm.
like with the FAFSA, if your school isn't indicated on that on their FAFSA, you wouldn't have access to that student's information. We do have the reports, but like Carly said, that the easiest way would be just to do a quick load into the training portal to see, um, because our system is built that you can't just look at every other school because there wouldn't be a way to limit you from looking at maybe schools that you shouldn't have access to. I'm not quite familiar with the NSLDS. Um, if that's saying that you have can grant you access to all students regardless what campus they're at. Like if you're CTC, do you have access to looking at UW's or other four-year institutions information? That part I'm not real familiar with. So Carly, if
Hmm.
you understand that part, I'll let you answer that
Yeah.
better. Otherwise, we can take it back and look. But as it is right now, um, if you don't have your student loaded into the portal, and just because you put them into the portal does not mean you are requesting funds from WASAC. So you can always change that. Just don't request the funds for them. But we can take it back and see if there's alternative ways, but at this point in time, there isn't. So Carly,
Yeah.
I don't know
Thanks,
if you have
Gabby.
more to add to that.
Oh, yeah, just I think it is system limitations. I think in the way that we set up user access in our system is different, I think, but I hear what you're saying. And that kind of goes back to our universal checker situation. And so, yeah, I don't know. We'll definitely be thinking on that. We are in the middle of the Seesaw 3.0 project. So if there's something that you have a suggestion for on how that could be done, because like Bobby said, we're limited in, we can't give you access to another school, but perhaps maybe there's like, I'm trying to think of how we could get the information without doing user permission problems. So yeah, anyways, appreciate you bringing that up and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, so there's quite a few comments that are in there. I'm not going to read through them, but just suggesting that they would prefer a easier way for them to look at the students. So I do want to acknowledge those.
Mhm. Great.
There is a question that's asking if they can update the student's record, such as add their school at the application.
So if that's a WASFA question, no, just like the FAFSA, the student has to add the school to their application. So you wouldn't even be able to access the application if they didn't have your school listed on it. So that is something a student would have to do.
Okay, thank you. Another question is, what is the training portal?
The training portal is basically the live portal, but it's refreshed every night. So any changes you make in there, you can play in there. It's just like the regular live portal that you use all the time, but it gives you a chance to mess with it to kind of understand the portal better, or like we said, use it for like file loads to see kind of edits that would pop, that might give you more opportunity to play around and understand. It's just the changes are not saved, it's wiped clean every night and it doesn't go to the live portal. Anything you do in the training portal just stays there and gets wiped the next day, so and is updated to the current live portal the next morning, updated to the live portal data, I should say.
Okay. Next question is, why can't it work like archive data and show that they are awarded at another school?
Yeah, yeah. I think archive is a current work in progress too. Gabi, do you know, you probably might know a little bit more about limitations there, but that is a good suggestion.
Again, it's access to every single student. Um, so there's n not a way for our system to confirm that you have a legitimate um, access, ability to access every student. Again, we'll take that part back, but Beth did suggest in here that once you load your students into the portal, you are able to see
Hmm.
the students' full records. So that is
Absolutely.
correct.
Hmm.
So that is a way to do it. You'll have to put in your students. Even if you're using a checker, you're going to have to list all of the social security numbers in to review, to compare the students to a checker. So um, either way, there's going to be some extra legwork with
Yeah.
how we go.
Yeah, and this is also probably a good time to remind everyone that you can upload a file anytime. You don't have to wait till interim opens or closes to upload a file into Seesaw. So if it's helpful for you to kind of be doing those file uploads, if you find a way to do change only files, that could be a great kind of tool you put into place where you're uploading Seesaw more regularly than just the interim reporting period times, because then that way you can kind of catch these students a little bit quicker. But that also, it depends on when schools report their school or their students. So it
Yeah,
is
that is a good point.
everyone, yeah, needing to report their information.
Yeah,
So
that
it
is an
relies on
excellent
that.
point because if one school isn't loading their students, you wouldn't know if they were currently
Yeah.
enrolled at another school too. So timing is really important in all of that aspect. So that's a really good point, Carly.
Yeah, and then I think in terms of for our CTC folks, I don't know, is there a way, since you use the same system, to identify cross awarding within the system, like within schools? I'm assuming not, but that would be a wonderful tool as well to know, across the CTC system, if there's a way to identify those students that way as well. So, not sure if that's something that could help within your system, but yeah, good questions.
Yeah. And then we have, should we ask the student to make all the corrections online due to the Privacy Act?
Yeah, so here's the thing. That's why we're having the school um, kind of send back enough. I'm assuming you're talking about WASPA corrections, but that's why we're having the school coming back to say an affidavit that they approve for the corrections to occur. Students cannot correct a dependency override or unusual circumstances ever. That always has to be done by the school. And so when we talk about income corrections, if it's something like you verified the student and they need to update their application, feel free to continue as normal with that process if you have the student correct that. This is more like in cases of like you've done a PJ, so you would normally update the application yourself and not for the student to update it. So yeah, I guess it's like kind of like everything. It's kind of an it depends answer. I would say in circumstances of PJ, that's going to be something you're going to want to correct on the WASPA yourself.
Okay, so there's quite a lot of stuff in here. So let me see where we're
Yeah,
at.
thanks, Gabi.
Um, um, let's see what's the next question. Not asking for a long list, but the ability to retrieve the student's info by already having PII to pull them up as a comment.
Okay, so like a checker kind of thing.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
then somebody asked, how do you access the training portal? I did put into the Q&A, I put in the link to training portal. So you should be able to access it in there. If you're not seeing that, let us know and I'll put it in again.
Yep. Also in the manual, if you're looking for links for that too.
And then it's a comment with archive checkers run only off of the SSN.
It can. I think you can also search by name and date of birth. I think there's a couple options there. Hmm.
Okay. We have a comment. We run things through the training portal regularly to find the edits and fix them on our end. It has been helpful. Thank you for that comment, Megan.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I'm glad it has been. We use training,
And
by the way, all the time in our jobs, mainly because we can kind of impersonate you to see what problems might be happening, and we can mess around with things and it be okay. So it's a huge tool and it's something that we utilize quite often.
And then at the final comment at the moment is
Mm.
CTCs load a file weekly-ish, should I say,
I
to
love
get
that.
updates on repayments and QER remaining. It would be great if the archive responses there also included something about awards that have already been reported at another school. So as Carly we mentioned, right now we're doing the 3.0 and we are having brain thoughts right now on a master checker.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps we can add this onto our suggestions for that master checker where we're thinking about trying to combine all of the different checkers that you need to use. No promises, but it's something that we
Yeah.
absolutely can put on to see if it can work out.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Yeah, thank you all. We really appreciate your thoughts. Definitely want to make your jobs easier. We know the combined enrollment issue is something that arises every single time. And so the tools we have now is portal training, but we'll see what kind of tools we can develop for you. We're always happy to see what we can do. And like Bobby said, we meet weekly about this project, so we'll definitely bring it up and see what we can do.
And that is all that I am seeing right now.
All right. Well, we're just a little bit past noon. Just want to thank you all for spending the time with us today. Thank you for all your excellent questions, for making sure that you show up and are present, and just thank you again for all the work that you do to make your interim report successful. Reach out if you have more questions. If you have suggestions, email us. We'll take it back 100%. And have a great rest of your week. Bye bye, y'all.